Welcome to Hot Garbage Sports with me, Coach Ryan D. All right, let's get into the rest of the playoffs here. Let's talk about Tampa Bay, Carolina. Let's talk about Vegas and the Avs. And then maybe we'll do a little sprinkling of the Bruins Islanders, but we've covered that video above. We follow that series in depth. So as we get closer to our Final Four, we have two of our winners. We got Tampa Bay and we have the Habs ready to rock. We're waiting on Boston and the Islanders. We're waiting on Colorado and Vegas. So let's go ahead and give a little bit of coverage here to Tampa Bay. And let's give a little bit of coverage to the Knights and the Avs and speculate and talk about what's been going on in these playoffs. So stick with us to the end of the video. We're going to talk about goaltending. We're going to talk about depth teams. We're going to talk about teams that play complete games. We're going to talk about superstars. Roll the intro.
Here's Lemieux. The center penalty coming up.
So there's several ways that you can win a Stanley Cup. There are certain tried and trusted true methods that end up getting you towards the cup, but there's no carbon copy cutout. We can talk about goaltending. That's a very big piece to winning a cup. We can talk about superstars and talent, huge piece to winning a cup. We can talk about veteran presence. We can talk about cohesivity of team. We can talk about coaches. But the reality is teams have done it in a multitude of ways. Some teams have done it more commonly than others. Other teams have done it unconventionally. You want to think about unconventional? Chicago Blackhawks had all the talent in the world, won a Stanley Cup with Antti Niemi. Guy's junk, trash. Didn't need goaltending to get him through because they had a good team structure, great leadership in Jonathan Toews, but he wasn't a veteran at the time. He was young little baby captain, but Captain Sirius ended up leading them through. In the salary cap era, where I'm going with this is there's normally holes on every team, and it's not only about how you highlight your strength, it's how about you mitigate those holes and cover up for your weaknesses. When you're in a salary cap, you're not supposed to have an elite goaltender unless you draft one and he's within the 3-year window. You're not supposed to have 6 defensemen that are just unbelievably deep. You're not supposed to have massive scoring talent that's also veterans. You're supposed to be able to have a core of 3 to 5 key players depending on how you match your salary cap. And around that core, you are supposed to bring in a combination of cheap, underpriced, undervalued free agents to be able to fill out your rosters with that veteran pedigree. And then you're supposed to be able to draft excellently and lean on those entry-level contracts to win Stanley Cups. A la Chicago. Tampa Bay's not doing that. Tampa Bay has no holes. They dispatched the Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. Carolina was one of the classes of the NHL. Carolina has almost no weakness down their roster because they've drafted well. They've gone ahead. They found good goaltending in Nedeljkovic. Yes, Mrazek got him through, but we're talking ELCs. There's Nedeljkovic. They have the coach in Rod Brindamore. They've filled their gaps all over the lineup. Carolina has done everything you need to do in a salary cap related era, but Tampa Bay, it may be legal, it may be allowed, but they use that long-term salary cap loophole to basically create a team that is perfect and could likely compete with an NHL All-Star team with players from every other team excluding Tampa Bay. Not saying they win, but when you're rocking one of the world's best goaltenders and Andrei Vasilevskiy, when you have no holes on defense because you're rocking Hedman and McDonagh, when you're littered with veteran presence all over the lineup, when everybody is getting paid like gangbusters, and you have the tax advantage that Tampa Bay does, and you're a $100 million team, you don't have a hole. So Tampa Bay, the walking cheat code, dispatches of Carolina regardless of how good Carolina build. They dispatch Florida regardless of how good Florida built. Because what answer does anyone have in the NHL to the top 6 that Tampa Bay has? What answer do you have to Andrei Vasilevskiy? A goalie can steal you a Stanley Cup. Hello, Jordan Binnington. What answer do you have when you have the shut-down defensive prowess where you have McDonagh, Sergachev, and Hedman all on different pairings? Unbelievable. So there are no gaps in Tampa Bay's game, and they are steamrolling through people in the playoffs. Can anybody stop Tampa Bay? Well, there are talented teams left. Yes, they could. But on paper, Tampa Bay looks unstoppable right now. There isn't a hole. There isn't a weakness. Their power play is fantastic. Their penalty kill is even better. Their goaltending is world class. The only way you're going to beat Tampa Bay, in my opinion, is if Tampa Bay doesn't play the way Tampa Bay can play. And with John Cooper behind the bench, their systems are fine. So there's no gaps. And that's not what is supposed to be happening in an NHL salary cap era. So will the loophole get closed? Maybe. Do the teams want to close? Maybe. It's the first team that's really ever exploited it to this level. It's happened before, but not to the point where you're $17 to $20 million over the cap. Ryan, where are you going with this? Well, very simply, they are supposed to have a hole somewhere in their lineup, and that $20 million extra above the salary cap removes that hole. You're supposed to have a hole in goaltending, or you're supposed to be like Carolina and draft a goaltender like Nedeljkovic and roll with the rookie. Didn't happen. You're supposed to have a hole somewhere in their defense. Doesn't happen. We just talked about their 3-on-3 different pairings. You're supposed to have a hole somewhere in your forward group. Go ahead. Maybe we can't have dynamic scorers and we have to score by committee because we've gone ahead and invested so much money in our goaltending and our decor. Nope, not in Tampa Bay. Tough. This is the way hockey goes. We're not complaining. We're just saying this is the way it goes. This is what you're facing. So Tampa Bay fans, jump down my throat all you want, but you have advantages out your advantages that other teams just don't get. Florida gets the tax break that you get, and that is a huge deal. But you get a tax break combined with a $100 million cap. That's like the New York Rangers or the Montreal Canadiens paying their team $120 million. It really is, because that is how much difference the tax bracket makes. Players want to take home the most amount of money. They do. And then on top of that, you have weather and the fact that you're not in a media bubble. So players get to go out, hang out with their family, not be bombarded. Everything is good about playing in Tampa Bay. That's where I would want to play. So Tampa Bay going to win the cup? Probably. But let's go ahead and talk about Vegas and the Avs. Wow, what a series, what a game. Two world-class teams as well, this close to as dynamic and talented as Tampa Bay. Nathan MacKinnon, an absolute playoff beast, but he has walked into the wall that is Marc-Andre Fleury. Goaltending makes a huge difference in the playoffs, and the Vezina Award winner nominee, Marc-Andre Fleury, stealing the series. Vegas has very few holes in their roster. They're not as dynamic as Tampa Bay. They're not as top-heavy in terms of scoring as Tampa Bay, but every player in Vegas feels like they are no worse than a third or a second line pairing or forward with any other team. And when you're playing with a team that basically has 4 second lines and you have really, really nice defensive depth led by Pietrangelo, Theodore, it's going to be hard to beat. And then you put Fleury in net, who is backstopping them the 3 in a row. Vegas, you look great. Avs, what more do you want from the Avalanche? They controlled the first 2 periods of that game. They were out shooting, outplaying. They end up 2-0, but the veteran presence of the Vegas Golden Knights stays calm, cool, and collected under their leadership. We said leadership's a big deal. Mark Stone's a fantastic leader from Winnipeg, Manitoba. He keeps his teams head on straight. Marc-Andre Fleury keeps his teams head on straight. He has multiple cups. They were able to weather the storm, put in those 2 goals, very calmly enter into overtime, and take a W. Do the Avs outplay them? I think so. I think everybody thinks so. Does it matter? Nope, because all that matters is how you get a win and how you construct your roster, and Vegas has done it, and now you're in trouble if you're the Avalanche. You have more than enough talent to win this series and win 2 in a row. There's no question about that. You are far from out of it. People think they're in bigger trouble than they are. I don't. I'm not saying Vegas isn't going to win the next game. I'm just saying if Colorado wins this series, I wouldn't be surprised. If Vegas wins this series, of course, I would be less surprised. So it's a very dynamic series to watch, and it's very dynamic to watch 2 juggernauts go at each other like this, because once these teams are done, they're going to face the Habs, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to face the winner of Boston and the Islanders. It'll be really interesting to see if the Islanders get through, because we already have Montreal getting through. Montreal has great goaltending and they're playing perfect team systems, but they are going to go against a team that likely plays a better team system in Vegas if they win, or a team top heavy with superstars, which Habs fans will tell you, hey, we already dispatched 2 of them. Bring on the 3rd one. Now let's talk about Grubauer for a minute, because I think Avs fans are going to be annoyed that I talked about the Vezina Trophy candidate Marc-Andre Fleury, and let's talk about goalies as a whole. Grubauer is not in the category of Fleury and Price or Vasilevskiy. Sorry, Avs fans. He's not. He may have gone ahead and gotten the nomination, and with the numbers he put up this season, of course he has to. But take a look at your division. With the exception of Vegas, okay, Minnesota's decent. They're decent. They're on their way up. But you really picked on a bunch of weak teams in this division, and you have so much talent that is keeping so much puck possession for days, that it's really hard to get the shot challenges that you are going to get, because the Avalanche are such a complete group. When I watch Grubauer play, he's fine. You're going to hate me for it, but he is nothing more than a mid-pack to slightly above average goalie. He's not below average, not a chance. He is in the top 40%, 33% of the league, but he's not in a top 5 conversation. If you are building a franchise tomorrow, you absolutely, in my opinion, would rather have Vasilevskiy, Fleury, Hellebuck, Price. These are guys that are just elite among elite. Grubauer might have found fire in a bottle for a few games. He can absolutely win a Stanley Cup with you. He is not your problem. He's not your concern. He's not an issue. You're not trading him. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying Fleury is in a class of his own. Vasilevskiy is in that class. Hellebuck's in that class. Price is in that class. Grubauer isn't yet. Maybe one day he will be. But even though Grubauer isn't there yet, and he's very good, it is made up for by a lot of scoring and dynamic players up front. And that's how you build a team. There's balance. There's holes everywhere. It's going to happen. You cannot have the best at every position unless you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. Bunch of cheaters. They're going to hate that. I know you're not actually cheating. It's within the rules. We get it. You're not going to hockey jail. But frankly, Tampa Bay fans, if you don't win the Stanley Cup this year, there's really not much else you can say about it. You should win it. You deserve to win it. And if you don't win it, what the hell did you do wrong? You actually can't ask for more. So pressure's on Tampa Bay. It's not on the rest of the league. I mean, Tampa Bay should walk through this, shouldn't they? You let me know down below in the comments. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. I think Vegas and the Avs are going to go to game 7, but we'll see. Let me know what you think down below. I think Boston and the Islanders are going to go to game 7 tonight. Who's our top 4? I'm still going to say it's going to be Vegas. So I think we got Vegas versus Montreal. I'm not going to make a prediction for the Bruins and for the Islanders. The Islanders are winning me over. Stay tuned to our review video tonight. Tampa Bay, the juggernaut that they are, should keep running through. If I had to pick a Stanley Cup favorite right now, has to be Tampa Bay. Has to be. But you let me know down below. This has been Coach Ryan D. Thanks for staying tuned. Follow us all the way through the playoffs. Top 4 coming, baby. Have a great one.